the board of directors of CANTO, Mrs. Wankin, Secretary General of CANTO. Where is my Liberty Caribbean, Liberty Latin America team? Welcome. CANTO members, industry stakeholders and partners, and everybody here today. It's a privilege to be here in Port of Spain at CANTO. We get together 2 times with CANTO. One is today and one is always over the summer. It's those moments where we can really connect with everybody and talk the industry. The theme Elevate the Caribbean from connectivity to global competitiveness is really dear to my heart. It's really something that with Liberty Caribbean and the team, we really try to strive day in, day out. So, because we've laid the wires and built the towers, it is there, it is already there. We must turn those pipes of possibilities into engines of lasting prosperity for all the people of the Caribbean. That's our mission. Over the past 2 decades, the Caribbean has closed gaps that many thought we were never going to close, or it would take us a very long time. But fiber lines are now hug the coast of all these beautiful Caribbean islands. Mobile signals reach the hills. And broadband, or for that matter, connectivity is now part of everyday life for millions. It creates opportunities, it creates global possibilities. It is with that in mind that we are here today. With connectivity as the foundation, I challenge each and single one of us to really think about what are we going to do, what are we going to build on it. So I'll touch upon 3 things. First, our tech must be rooted in the Caribbean. I'm going to come back on that one. Second, intelligent connectivity must be people-centered, and it must be resilient, like we've learned again this year, and I think like we will learn every single year. And third, Liberty Caribbean's work across the region, including right here in Trinidad and Tobago, is a practical example of how a telco can and will evolve into a techco, and how we also, within that, champion homegrown opportunities. Let me first start with our tech must be rooted in Caribbean identity. Connectivity without culture is an exportable commodity. It can be bought, moved, and replicated anywhere. But what I've learned over the last 8 years, being part of Liberty Caribbean and this region, is that connectivity, when you marry it with identity, it creates something different. It creates ideas, services, and stories that the world wants to buy and consume because they are unmistakably Caribbean. Think of fintech platforms that understand the remittance corridors and informal commerce of our islands. Think of creative tech that helps a soca artist license a sample to a producer in London. We witnessed it last night. Think of agri-tech that respects small farms and microclimates rather than forcing them into a one-size-fits-all of all the big countries. At Liberty Caribbean, we have put this idea into practice. We launched a couple of years ago our JUMP program, delivered in partnership with almost all the governments of the Caribbean and community organizers. Combines subsidized access, devices given to our people, and training, because that only then it has an impact. This is an investment in the future. Customers and exporters, it is not just charity. So first belief that we have at Liberty Caribbean is that it has to be really embedded into the Caribbean identity. Second, intelligent connectivity that protects and empowers. Intelligent connectivity, it's not a buzzword. It's a next layer of network design, so our infrastructure does more than just move data around. It must be ready for 5G, edge computing, IoT, and the applicants those technologies enable. More importantly, it must be planned around people, hospitals using remote diagnostic, fisheries getting real-time weather and market data, small hotels selling immersive experience to visitors everywhere in the world to bring them to our Caribbean. Crucially in all this, our networks and our connectivity has to be resilient. We built in the heart of a hurricane zone, fault lines and volcanoes. When disasters strike, we need connectivity to work. It's life-saving. We learn it every single year. We learned it again with Melissa. And our regional emergency work shows that When the industry players partner with satellite providers and governments, we can restore life-critical communication in hours rather than days. Those partnership mindsets, practical, urgent, and people-first, must guide how we design our networks for the future. That's our second pillar. Third, as we are in Trinidad and Tobago, I want to talk about how Trinidad and Tobago is on the move. Since I must talk about it, given this country is really on the move. I see the momentum driven by the Blueprint Revitalization Plan, attracting high-profile investors' visits and delivering a successful investor roadshow that realized a $1 billion bond last week. These are clear signals that investors see the potential here and there's confidence in the future of Trinidad and Tobago. But investments is only the beginning. Trinidad's leadership, pairing capital with digital ambition, initiatives like the National Digital Assistant can be instrumental in transforming how citizens access public services. Partnering with UNESCO and the UNDP and the National AI Assessment and collaborating with industry stakeholders to explore transformative uses of AI across education and public service, including an ambitious partnership with OpenAI to reimagine national education and public service delivery, are big and transformative ideas that will require practical and smart partnership to become reality. Otherwise, it will just not happen. The Developers Hub is another tangible expression of that ambition, a platform enabling individuals and small enterprises to partner with government to build open source solutions that deliver services to citizens. Three important building blocks, and Liberty Caribbean is here to build them together with you. So how are we going to do it? Partnership, governance, and responsible experimentation. If we are to innovate responsibly, we must expand the idea of a partnership to include regulators, intermediaries, civil society, and academia. Co-regulation models where codes of practicing are co-drafted and where regulatory sandboxes allow safe-to-fail experimentation. Embedded transparency, privacy by design, and guardrails for bias, safety, and environmental impact without freezing product innovation. This is how we enable responsible adoption of AI, fintech, and other emergent technologies across the region. PPP, public-private partnership, is, in my view, essential to deliver progress quickly. Governments provide vision and legitimacy. Industry will bring the skill, will bring the technical capability and the investments. University and civil society will bring scrutiny and social purpose. So it's only together that we will be able to really bring these things forward. When we align incentives and share governance, we de-risk experimentation and accelerate meaningful outcomes. The world is moving rapidly. So let's embrace this together in a united way. Liberty Caribbean's role in this, and the readiness to connect. We've built the pipes, we've built the mobile networks. We now want to do our part. We will make the right connections and introductions that move agendas forward between investors and developers, between regulators and product teams, and between governments and private partners who can deliver scalable solutions. Our ambition is really to transform the network capabilities into something more and broader, into platforms and ecosystems that Caribbean entrepreneurs can use to launch services globally. That's our ambition. Now, Trinidad as a source of next wave talent. It's not just Liberty Caribbean who has discovered this. Many amongst us here in the room know this. Trinidad is uniquely placed to become a source of next wave Caribbean talent. With deep educational institutions, a strong private sector, and a culture of creativity, the country can produce the digital literacy and skill needed for the next 10 to 20 years. Our focus on nurturing homegrown talent through apprenticeships in software, network engineering, data partnerships with universities, mentorship for product managers, and procurement that gives local startups initial customers is an achievement we are super proud of. When a developer in San Fernando builds an app that helps fishermen record catch and sells that service across this entire Caribbean region, that is when competitiveness is born here. That's what is called global competitiveness. And the career ladder matters. Technicians that are skilled to become network engineers, Digital apprentice to product lead. Inclusion matters. Women, rural communities, and marginalized groups need targeted talent pathways. The work we've done through inclusion programs and industry partnership is just a start, but we must scale it with clear intention. You will hear more about what Liberty Caribbean has been doing in this field over the next days as CANTO HR conference later this week. We'll have some of our people talking there. But me personally, over the last 7 years, have really given this a lot of attention, and I'm super proud that today 85% of our Caribbean managers are all Caribbean nationals. 50% of our leadership team and our directors are women. This is what we need to do more. How do we put all of this into practice? Some practical steps we can take together. For example, we could prioritize public procurement that gives local cloud and B2B platforms room to scale. Liberty Caribbean is at your doorstep to do that together with you. Scale industry-led skills program with guaranteed internships and apprenticeships. We are taker, we will do the commitment to any market that wants to do it together with us. Harmonize standards for data protection and cybersecurity to ease cross-border services across the Caribbean. Design blended financial instruments that reward social as well as financial returns. Invest in resilient network design with shared public-private risk models for critical infrastructure. I've said it before, it is going to be super important. Every year we learn it. We've learned it this summer, again with Melissa. Why momentum matters and how can we win with Caribbean? We are absolutely not starting from zero. A lot of the work has been done. Digital inclusion programs have brought families online. Emergency responses have saved lives by restoring communications very, very quickly. Early 5G deployments have created new use cases. These are proof points. When infrastructure, talent, and policy align, impact follows. But momentum is fragile. It requires true collaboration between government, regulators, investors, industry leaders. It requires patience to design long-term instruments and the courage to make early procurement choices that back local investors. The Caribbean has always been a place of creativity, resilience, and cultural confidence. I've learned it myself over the last years. But those qualities are actually a competitive edge in a world that is increasingly valuing authenticity. I hope we all depart this conference committed to a future where our networks do more than just connect our islands. But, they amplify our stories, sustain our communities, and create dignified work that keeps talent here, building the Caribbean we want. That's why we talk about homegrown. I will close with one ask to all. It is simple. Invest in platforms and invest in our Caribbean people. Design policy to enable bold experimentation. Build governments that share responsibility and protect citizens. And together, let us ensure the next wave of Caribbean success is driven by homegrown ideas and homegrown talent, led by Caribbean people and scaled to the world. I thank you. Also, our part of the job also drive, all this drive partnership. I also want to already extend an invitation to everybody here. We have always CANTO at the start of the year and then CANTO in the summer. What we as Liberty Caribbean last year started is that somewhere in between those two conferences, we are now also doing a Caribbean Amplify conference. So Liberty Caribbean will be inviting all of you on the 14th of May in Miami for a big Amplify Liberty Caribbean conference. Thank you.
Sincere thanks again to lead us off this morning with the keynote address, the CEO of Liberty Caribbean at Liberty Latin America, Mrs. Inga Smith. And of course, making mention that the intention is clear and 85% of the leadership is indeed Caribbean-based talent, tapping into the brilliant minds and the potential that is limitless here in the region. Let me give special mention, and indeed we will hear from, of course, later on, from iGovTT. I must say good morning to the chairman of iGovTT, Ria Karim, and indeed we look forward to that perspective later on this morning. Very important player in the local ecosystem when it comes to information and disseminating said information. So good morning to the IGOV TT team. Now, Liberty Caribbean, they are diamond sponsors for CANTO 2026, CANTO Connect. We also have Huawei. We will hear from Huawei later on as a diamond sponsor. But another important player and diamond sponsor is the next speaker who will join us to treat with telecom policy and AI opportunities. Let's give a warm Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago welcome to the CEO of ATN International, Mr. Brad Martin. Brad, join us front and center.
Thank you. Good morning. Hope everyone had a wonderful evening. It is a pleasure to be here to address this conference, and for honorable ministers, our CANTO leadership, industry executives, colleagues, partners, it is a privilege to be here, and thank you so much. My name is Brad Martin. I am the CEO at ATN International. We operate across the Caribbean. Sorry, step a little bit closer. Under the One Communications and Brava brands. What I want to speak this morning about are some of the developments around telecom, AI policy, and developments that are very, very important to continue to move this innovation to drive competitiveness that Inga mentioned in her discussion. But what I want to mention here is really where telecom policy and AI policies are really starting to intersect, and why this moment is very important for the Caribbean. AI is no longer a technology that's in the future. AI is here. And it is now a core infrastructure that is critical, just as critical as energy, as broadband and transportation. For telecom operators, it is an opportunity and a responsibility. And the responsibility really comes that it's our data centers, it's our fiber optic networks, and it's the governance frameworks that increasingly allow for and underpin AI adoption. And it's those same assets that really allow us to serve and help governments, businesses in the markets that we operate in to really help drive and scale up AI. So to set up a view of where AI is, I really want to take you back to where, am I going the right direction? There we go. So I want to take you through really where AI is globally. So I'm going to take you through what AI is. Everyone knows what it is, but I'll give you a little perspective of how telecom operators think about it. What's happening at a global scale in the AI conversation? What's happening in the US? How the Caribbean markets can really look at some of these best practices that are evolving and really maximize the way we're setting policies to enable AI capabilities for the long-term benefits of the markets that we serve. And I'll take you through some of the ways that telecom operators are thinking about how we will comply, the different regulatory frameworks that will enable this to roll out at scale successfully. So AI can be, everyone is aware, it can be a very, very powerful economic equalizer. It allows small markets to really leapfrog some traditional constraints. It could be distance, it could be scale, it could be limited human capital, but really to drive competitiveness with some smaller scale against very, very large operations happening on a global basis. We're already seeing early adoption across the Caribbean in governments, in tourism, in multiple services industries. And these aren't theoretical use cases. These are real value projecting applications, but most are still very early, and they still require the ability to scale up. And that requires really resilience, really strong policy, really strong training and skills for the people that are driving and delivering these services. So let me speak a little bit to what's happening in the global conversation. 2 weeks ago at Davos, AI was the fundamental topic. And I won't go through all of these core areas, but it is something that for certain is at the top of minds across all markets everywhere, how to really take advantage of this new technology platform. What really matters most here to this group is how does governance and trust really drive the AI ecosystem to a further scale. And that is one of the critical dynamics here that was spoken about at Davos. AI systems are becoming more autonomous, but some of the accountability frameworks are really lagging. And that really is creating, for many leaders, described as this trust overhang. And one core takeaway, it's important to drive effective AI policy that is sector-specific, not necessarily broad, one-size-fits-all regulation. That really is what it will help drive data sovereignty, security, geopolitical alignment into really managing innovation and speed through these applications. A key area that I want to highlight, if you look down at that top bullet, everyone is in the early phase. So no one here is behind. We are globally still in early phases. And a really interesting development just happened the last week, I'll take it to that fourth bullet, is agentic AI. And those of you that follow some of the new technologies, a company called Moltbot just came out with a real, true agentic AI personal assistant, and it is revolutionary. And I certainly recommend you all take a look at what Moltbot can do. What will happen is 2026 will be the year of true AI agentic operations across enterprises, across businesses, to really take advantage of not just chatting with your AI, but actually giving that AI action and delivering real benefit to business and enterprise. So that's a really interesting development. 2026 will be an important development time frame for agentic AI to really take hold and drive. It's critically important that we are driving the right policies around this. So effective AI policy really, again, is not sector-specific, it's not one-size-fits-all, and really drives value and innovation first and adoption first methodology. And this is really where the US has started to position their AI journey and policy process. It really had started at state-by-state level. An executive order was issued in December, really with a core key purpose, but it does send a very clear signal that prioritization on innovation while managing risk is top priority. So the emphasis on light touch, national and consistent standards, avoiding more fragmented, overly restrictive rules that slow down deployment. At the same time, making sure that key areas like child protection, child safety, cybersecurity, and government use cases all remain protected. And those are core tenets in the way the U.S. is moving forward. For the Caribbean, this is an important policy because U.S. policy does increasingly shaping global norms, has for long-term investment flows, but importantly, and for everyone in this room, technology partnerships, the way we unlock value through these AI models. One area I do want to bring to your attention is that the Caribbean has a really great opportunity to maximize the way that we're unlocking these models moving forward, but also in alignment. How do we align our policies to make sure that we're moving forward at the right scale? So the opportunity here is not to necessarily copy any single model, but to take the best practices and align pragmatically with global accepted norms. That means adopting innovative, focused AI strategies, harmonizing regionally without heavy mandates, deepening bilateral cooperation with the U.S. where possible, focusing on real economic and social outcomes. And what's really especially powerful is that a lot of the programs that are available today that can be leveraged, and this is everywhere from digital infrastructure to financing to workforce development, research collaboration, and leveraging trusted AI frameworks. What this means for telecom operators. Operators are moving very much to the center of the AI ecosystem. We need to prepare for more formal AI audit and compliance expectations, stricter rules around AI-driven customer interactions, cross-functional governance around legal, engineering, and security teams inside your operations to ensure efficient and effective AI delivery to your customers and your solutions. And ultimately, to make sure that growing demand for secure power, efficiency, and sovereign infrastructure is at the forefront of everything that we do. But in short, the governance AI and telecom here are really converging. And they're really driven by this core theme of national security, resilience, and trust. And at the core, one of the elements that came up at Davos, is one of the really important elements right here is that open models are really major root. And those open models are an opportunity because those open models can be hosted anywhere. And sovereign data infrastructure, sovereign data is just mission critical to really driving this and delivering this successfully. And an element that I invite you all to look at, and I mentioned Moltbot, but you can look at all of the major AI models that are out there today. the open source capability there is improving significantly. And that allows it to be run anywhere. And that allows it to be merged with your data. And the important piece in AI is that intelligence is your data with context. So having that data locally, having sovereign data rights and data regulatory requirements met is something mission critical that you can start the foundations of today. And driving forth that data infrastructure, this is an example of the way in which ATN Businesses, Brava, is partnering with partners like Cloud Korea to deliver across the markets that we serve the sovereign infrastructure for cloud, data, security, all wrapped into a simple to leverage bundle. This is really at the heart of how we set the foundation to move forward here as a collective. But AI readiness depends on these 4 key areas. Sovereign cloud data infrastructure really enables the compliance and data sovereignty requirements that are developing. It allows for high-performance networks, scalable AI platforms to be allowed to adopt and manage your data sets, and ultimately to be able to unlock the value at the application layer. And that really is where the value to the customers will be driven, is that application layer. So policies really need to map into how do we extract that value, how do we make sure that the end users are getting the highest level benefit of the AI platforms with the right level of regulatory requirements to protect and deliver innovations. So together these elements create a foundation for competitiveness and trusted AI deployment, tailored to regional needs, not necessarily imported as an afterthought. Which really brings me to my final thought. Am I progressing this the wrong way? There we go. So, just last slide. So AI readiness really does depend on 4 things: compute, data, and security. You know, this set of services across the Caribbean represents a really significant opportunity. And the Caribbean has an opportunity through bodies such as CANTO to really shape AI effectively and deliberately. Not by over-regulating, but not also by standing still, but aligning the infrastructure and policy and partnerships that move this forward at scale. Telecom operators have a critical role to play, not just connectivity providers, but really as enablers of AI readiness for these markets. And these discussions here at CANTO are the things that are going to help shape that. And we're happy to be here and participate, and the importance of CANTO in the shaping of these policies going forward is a critical set of conversations, and we're very happy to be part of those conversations and very happy to be there. And that is it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the perspective there. And again, one of our diamond sponsors, the ATN International team. Thank you so much for being here, Brad. And we look forward to a great day and an even better evening when we get to the mixer and cool down. I'll give details concerning that in a short while. Right now, though, I've just received the internet details. So if you have pen and paper, you want to put this on your laptop, take a note of to get access. You just go into, of course, the Wi-Fi. You'll see the meeting, right? Well, Hyatt's Wi-Fi and the access code for the conference. Take a note of this. It's 856218. Again, 856218 to get in to the Wi-Fi. Very important. I'll say it one more time. 856218. I remember the days growing up in the 80s and stuff. You'll go by a friend and first thing you'll ask for is water. This wrong when you go by somebody, you ask for Wi-Fi, you know. Yeah, that's the reality of the moment we find ourselves in. So again, just going to the Hyatt's Wi-Fi access there, right? Right, Hyatt meeting, and then it will take you to the page where they ask for the code. And one more time, it's 856218. So, as mentioned, the iGov TT team is here with us, and the chairman, Ria Karim, is going to step forward to treat with Trinidad and Tobago's digital transformation, governance, platforms, and public value. Let's give a warm welcome to the chairman of iGov TT, Ria Karim.
representatives from across the government of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Diallo Rabin, I hope I'm pronouncing everybody's name correctly, Minister for the Cabinet Office and Digital Innovation, Bermuda, the Honorable Raymond Landveld, Minister of Transport, Communications and Tourism, Republic of Suriname, Their Excellencies, Ambassadors of Cuba, Panama, the Dominican Republic, the Republic of South Korea, and other diplomatic representatives, Dr. Del Rio Newman, Chairman of CANTO, Mrs. Teresa Wankin, Secretary General of CANTO, Ms. Inga Smith, Chief Executive Officer, Liberty Caribbean, CANTO members, specially invited guests, delegates, industry leaders, innovators, colleagues, and other distinguished guests, members of the media. Good morning. It is a pleasure to be here at CANTO Connect among people who don't just discuss technology, but who build it, secure it, scale it, and operationalize it. My brief remarks today on the topic, leading Trinidad and Tobago's digital transformation, governance, platforms, and public value, is framed from a strategic perspective. So rather than cataloging digital projects, I wish to focus on how technology can be deliberately governed, integrated, and implemented to evolve how the state delivers services, creates public value, and earns trust in a digital era. Ladies and gentlemen, it all begins and ends with service to citizens. This cannot and could not ever be a case of just building systems, platforms, APIs for the sake of boasting of the technology itself. But everything we envision, create, implement, and manage must be designed to ensure that people, our citizens, experience a simpler, faster, and more responsive government. All of this will be done with a view to solving the problems and frustrations that people encounter in accessing government services and to addressing impediments that hinder government's ability to reach citizens and deliver public goods and services seamlessly and efficiently. I'm here to speak primarily, of course, from the perspective of iGovTT, the organization responsible for executing Trinidad and Tobago's national digital agenda and translating policy intent into platforms, systems, and services that operate at national scale. Everything we do is grounded in three foundational pillars on which the Ministry of Public Administration and AI strategy is based. These pillars are: 1, digital service that puts citizens first; 2, smart, efficient government powered by data and intelligence; and 3, a nation built on skills, opportunity, and people. Again, each of these pillars directly addresses people, our citizens, the public service, and the current and future workforce. With this anchor then, I'll look at the areas for discussion that I've been asked to speak about, and these are governance, platforms, and public value. Now allow me to start with governance, but governance that enables and not restricts. This is about clarity, coherence, and confidence. Governance that sets clear standards, shared architectures, and guardrails for security, privacy, and ethics so that innovation can happen faster, trust can build, and opportunities can grow. Digital strategy fails when policy, regulation, investment, and delivery are not aligned. So in order to achieve the desired digital modernization goals, we must have policy leadership that sets direction, regulatory guardrails that protect the public interest, investment priorities focused on shared national capability, and delivery capacity that actually translates intent into working services for citizens. The government recognizes that a strong legislative agenda which protects data and privacy while engendering trust, security, and interoperability is a critical driver of digital transformation. At iGovTT, our duty is to ensure continuous alignment with policy and compliance with legislation, regulation, and standards, both on our part and that of our partners. I move now to platforms and public value. The work of iGovTT is to meaningfully and efficiently deliver public value, in part through the platforms we develop and operate. Platforms, well-designed, secure, and interoperable, are the connective tissue between governance and public value. They are no longer just IT systems, they are national assets. And one of the most important lessons we learned from countries which are pioneering and are succeeding in transforming their societies to ICT is to stop thinking just in terms of projects and start investing in platforms. When designed correctly, platforms enable government to build once and reuse many times, allowing for cost-cutting, elimination of duplication, rapid scaling of services, and secure integration of public and private solutions. This, of course, is the basis of digital public infrastructure, DPIs, foundational building blocks designed for public benefit, which are interoperable, modular, and well-governed, with privacy and security built in from day one. DPIs for payments, connectivity, identity, shared data services, among others, create the rails on which smarter government runs. What this translates to ultimately is fiscal discipline. As we move away from repetitive spending on building the same thing over and over in different ministries and agencies, and capitalize on powerful, scalable digital assets. At iGovTT, we work with MDAs to design, project manage, sometimes build, other times operate platforms so that ministries can focus on outcomes and not infrastructure. Platforms, when governed well, unlock innovation instead of constraining it. Now, coming back to the pillars I mentioned at the beginning, the first one was putting citizens first, and this speaks directly to public value, which must remain the ultimate measure of success. It means starting every single project, every plan, every initiative, every system design by asking whether it makes life better, simpler, fairer, and easier for our citizens. It is about dignity, breaking intergenerational cycles of inequality and providing meaningful ways for people to interact with government. The fact is, citizens don't experience government by ministry or project. They experience it through moments when they have to pay a fee, book an appointment, apply for a job, access information, renew a passport or a driver's license, get a birth certificate, all of these different things. And platforms like GovPay-TT, e-appointments, Employ-TT, and Anansi, and the soon-to-be rolled-out Verify-TT are not just technical solutions. They are mechanisms for reducing friction, improving access, and building trust when citizens have to do these things and more. For industry, this matters because citizen-centered digital government improves ease of doing business, creates consistent digital interfaces with the state, and increases adoption, which is essential for scale. But citizen-first design only works when, as I mentioned earlier, there is strong governance, which seeks to ensure privacy by design, security by default, and reliability as a baseline expectation. Trust is not a feature. Trust is infrastructure. If citizens can't rely on services during a crisis, the entire thing collapses. If businesses can't count on stable digital infrastructure, investment dries up. The stakes are real. This is about competitiveness, trust, and resilience. The third pillar I mentioned earlier speaks about people, skills, and opportunity, and this underpins everything. No platform, governance framework, or system works without the right human capability behind it. So as we chart the course towards a digital future, it's critical that our people are empowered to participate and thrive in this reimagined economy. And this can only be achieved by ensuring that the opportunities are available and accessible to all for education, training, upskilling, and professional versatility. The government's will in this regard is clearly demonstrated in the Minister of Public Administration and AI's recent announcement of a landmark partnership with OpenAI, the global leader in artificial intelligence, AI research, and deployment. Through this partnership, Trinidad and Tobago will join OpenAI's Education for Countries initiative, which is designed to help nations build future-ready education systems by embedding AI tools into schools and universities, ultimately equipping the workforce with essential skills required for a world increasingly shaped by AI, as we just heard from the previous speaker. We expect that more initiatives of this nature, which would fortify the innovation and technology ecosystems, will be rolled out in the near future. So, ladies and gentlemen, in closing, I wish to reiterate that when we speak about leading Trinidad and Tobago's digital evolution and modernization, or more accurately, its digital reimagining, we are talking about governance that builds trust and alignment, platforms that enable scale and innovation, and public value that citizens actually feel. When we get this right, we don't just modernize services. We redefine the relationship between the state, citizens, and the digital economy. I thank you.
Chance to hear there from iGovTT. Thank you so much, Chairman Karim. And as she mentioned, a chance to reimagine and embrace the digital transformation that is currently in full swing. Another quick announcement before we get to another keynote speaker, another one of our diamond sponsors, and that is indeed Huawei. We'll get to that momentarily. Let me acknowledge for all these amazing t-shirts, everybody looking so sharp and smart in their green, and it's indeed sponsored, and let me treat with that. As you notice, you're getting all the different sizes. You have your small, medium, large. Well, I just see no extra large, but nonetheless, we're working with it, and we want to say a sincere thanks to the good folks. And when we call them out, let's give them a nice round of applause. We want to acknowledge our sponsors with the t-shirts today. The good folks at the Turks and Caicos Telecommunications Commission, TCI-TC. So if you're in your green t-shirt, feeling all dapper? Yes? Now, as mentioned, we are getting ready for another keynote speaker. We would have acknowledged some of our diamond sponsors earlier, Liberty Caribbean, of course, ATN International, and we now welcome our third diamond sponsor. We welcome from Huawei, the Senior Solution Manager. Let's give a warm Trinidad welcome to Bob Liu.
Distinguished members of the CANTO leadership, honorable representatives from governments and the regulatory authorities, CEOs and the senior executives from operators, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor for me to participate in this CANTO Summit on behalf of Huawei. My name is Liu Bo. I'm the Senior Solution Manager from Huawei. And also, this is my first time in Caribbean. Thank you. I really felt warmth and enthusiasm here. First of all, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to CANTO and its Secretariat. Over the years, CANTO has served as a highly respected platform that brings together governments, regulators, operators, and the industry partners to shape the digital future of the Caribbean. This kind of dialogue and regional coordination is essential for turning national digital ambitions into real, sustainable impact. First, let me briefly share some context on Huawei. Huawei has been deeply engaged in the ICT industry for decades, serving customers in over 170 countries and regions. We continue to invest heavily in connectivity, computing, cloud, and digital power, with a strong focus on security, reliability, and long-term sustainability. Our vision is simple: bring digital to every person, home, and organization for a fully connected, intelligent world. Huawei would like to work with operators, governments, and enterprises together to develop a digital environment. We firmly believe that by combining Huawei's technological capabilities with local knowledge and policy alignment, the Caribbean region can strengthen its position in the global digital economy. From an industry perspective, I would like to share our thoughts about industry trends, regional challenges, and our scenario-based approach. We see there are several key trends. First, connectivity remains essential, but the value is shifting toward cloud, computing, and intelligence services. This is also what's happening in China these years. Second, AI is becoming a core capability across networks, industries, and public services. Third, sustainability, resilience, and cybersecurity are no longer optional. They are strategic requirements. At the same time, the Caribbean region faces some unique challenges. Relatively small market size with high infrastructure costs. I think all the operators and the government regulators can feel that. Second, exposure to natural disasters require highly resilient networks. Third, growing digital demands, but long investment return cycles. The fourth, shortage of digital and AI skills. This is where alignment among policy, investment, and innovation becomes critical. From Huawei's perspective, the answer is not one-size-fits-all solutions, but scenario-based approaches. Let me share a few concrete examples. First, for telecom operators, the priority is sustainability, operationally, financially, and environmentally. First, in many Caribbean markets, operators face high energy costs, disparate size, and increasing service expectations. By applying AI-driven network optimization, intelligent energy management, and simplified cloud-native architectures, we believe operators can reduce OpEx and energy consumption, improve network stability and service quality, build more resilient networks against natural disasters. This allows operators to reinvest the savings into network expansion and new digital services. This is also what I want to talk with all the operators in the future days. Second, for government and public services, digital infrastructure is increasingly a matter of national capability. Now it's a competition all over the world. Huawei works with governments to build secure cloud platforms to support e-government, digital identity, data sharing, and disaster response systems. We also have a lot of showcase all over the world. In small island states, these platforms help governments deliver services more efficiently while ensuring data security. Third, but not least, for key industries such as energy, ports, and tourism, which are important in Caribbean, digital transformation must be practical and outcome-driven. For example, in the energy sector, digital and AI-based solutions help integrate renewable energy, improve grid stability, and manage distributed assets. I think most of you know that in China, we have the biggest grid all over the world. How we improve that is AI-driven. Second, in ports and logistics, intelligent connectivity and cloud platforms improve operational efficiency and regional trade competitiveness. Third, in tourism, digital platforms enhance visitor experience while enabling smarter destination management. Across all these scenarios, we suggest invest locally, co-create with operators, and build capabilities that grow with the region over time. We, Huawei, would like to work with the government and the operators together to build this. To conclude, I strongly believe that national digital strategies with global impact are built on long-term alignment, not short-term actions. This is exactly why CANTO plays a very important role to combine governments, regulators, and operators together for a brighter future for the Caribbean. We look forward to continuing this journey together, to contributing a more connected, intelligent, and resilient Caribbean. Thank you.
Thank you so much again. The Senior Solution Manager from Huawei, Bob Liu. And did I hear correct? Bob said this is his first time to the Caribbean? Yeah, interesting. Well, welcome. And I know, well, you'll have a splendid time later for the mixer. You'll get a real early taste, a first-time taste of the cultural offerings of Trinidad and Tobago. And that mixer later on this evening, it's sponsored by Liberty Caribbean, so look out for that. We gather downstairs at 6:30. I'll give details during the course of the day. As we get into the morning session, this for CANTO Connect 2026, our AGM, we're getting into our first panel discussion. The theme, digital, well, sovereignty here in the Caribbean, why nations must, no matter of fact, is national digital strategies for global impact. That's the actual theme. And the moderator who's going to take us through, Mark Reynolds, Director of CANTO, and joining him on the panel, the likes of Curley Prescott, CEO of the Telecommunications Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, and Charles Bob Samples, Acting CEO of iGovTT. Let's give a warm welcome to Mark, who will take us through our first panel discussion.
Good morning, CANTO. How are we doing today? Better response. We're about to have an interactive session. All right, good. All right, guys. So before I get into the nature of the panel and the key outcomes that we're expecting this morning, I'd like to introduce you to our sharp and very incisive panel. To my left would be Curley Prescott. He serves as the Chief Executive Officer of the Telecommunications Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, having been promoted from the role of Executive Officer of Technology and Engineering in the organization. He has over 2 decades of leadership experience in technical and general management roles in the telecommunications sector. He has been throughout the industry. You're looking at TSTT, Columbus Communications, now Flow, and Cable and Wireless, and has worked across True Caribbean, man, TT&T, Curacao, Barbados, Windward Islands. I want to see your passport. And also, to my closer left, we have Charles Bob Semple. As we have heard, he's the acting CEO of iGovTT. That's pretty much a digital transformation agency for Trinidad and Tobago. He's a seasoned ICT executive with over 20 years experience, and he leads the strategic leadership of the organization through delivery, consulting, software development, operations. He's a nuts and bolts guy. As a director from the board, I must say I'm very pleased with the flow and the tenor of what has been happening. We have heard from Inga in terms of calling for the partnership between government and private sector. She passed on the baton to Brad, where he spoke about the need for AI and investment in our people, seeing the geopolitical shifts and the need for proper and strategic investment. And then we spoke about particularly to the point of people and how the government must be of service to the citizens. And on that note, when we speak about digital strategy, we're not speaking about the apps and what we see, the gadgets, ICT projects. We're looking at a government and private sector blueprint, one that defines a nation, its data, it protects its digital identity, develops talent, builds infrastructure. For the Caribbean, as we have seen, it's a matter of sovereignty and competitiveness. Digitization of our societies does not begin with the private sector alone, but the governments must take the lead. Governments set the standards, create trust, modernize public services, signal confidence to investors and citizens alike. When the public sector leads, the private sector is able to scale effectively. This requires governments and public sectors, public agencies working hand in hand with ISPs such as ATN and Liberty, and technology providers, innovators, and academia, not as separate actors, but partners aligned around a national and regional digital vision. It requires a shift in how we invest as a region. We shouldn't buy fragmented technology products out of the box, but we must look for strategic long-term investment and partnerships with our ISPs in digital public infrastructure, secure networks, interoperable platforms, trusted data environments, and resilient systems that will keep the data, identity, and IP within our control. And when I say that, persons normally come to the Caribbean for a vacation, but I think the true beauty of the Caribbean is the unique pulse of our people. And we should be able to be in a position to be able to monetize that effectively for our benefit. The question is not whether the Caribbean will digitize. We are already in the era now. And the question is who will lead, who will benefit, who will govern that digital future. And this session is to bring about that discussion towards a digital statecraft and to position the Caribbean not just to be a consumer of box technology, but to be coordinated, credible digital hub on the world stage. And the primary outcome I hope for this panel this morning is that we set the stage for a more incisive discussion for Punta Cana in August. So without further ado, let us get into it, guys. All right. So from a regulatory standpoint, Curl, I'm just going to start with you. You have been in the private sector, you have crossed over now into public as a regulator, policy, I've worn many hats. And I just want to start off in terms of first identifying for us today, incisively, what is the gap that we are facing as a region and how can we overcome it?
Well, thank you for that question, Mark. When you say, what is the gap? I think I have a slightly different perspective as what is the opportunity, right? I don't see it as a gap. As a gap has a sort of a connotation that we've missed something, right?
True.
I think the theme, the discussion from last night to this morning identifies the opportunity, which is in the Caribbean, we have made a lot of progress in terms of connectivity investment. Sure. There was a session yesterday, and there was an activity, an icebreaker activity, to specify some truths and some myths of the ICT sector in the region. And there was a truth that was proposed, which is that the broadband penetration rates in the Caribbean are better than those in the US. Right? That was a question. Is the truth of it? And it's actually offered as a truth. Right? That broadband penetration rates. Many countries in the Caribbean, Trinidad, Tobago, Guyana, where you're from, they're actually better than the broadband penetration rates in the US.
Right.
So I hear Brad, no offense, Brad, I'm not targeting you, telling us about, hey, we need to look at what the US is doing in terms of AI policy and so on, which is true in terms of AI. But the opportunity is there for us where we actually have, from an inclusion perspective, better connectivity in terms of the number of people that are connected. You have more people can participate in the independent digital economy. So I would say the opportunity, staying away from the term gap, is how do we leverage that impressive connectivity that we have been able to achieve to really, become more globally competitive. Coming back to the peak, how do we leverage all that great connectivity, have all that 4G services, all those fiber connections to really empower, the entrepreneurs, the farmers, the small business owners, to really participate in that global economy, to tap into those customer segments that are regional, that are global. And how do we leverage that connectivity to achieve type of another discussion that was held this morning about scale being an important aspect to be globally competitive. So how do we leverage those impressive connectivity rates to achieve the economies of scale to be globally competitive? So that's what I would say would be the opportunity from a national digital strategy perspective.
Well, to that point, I'm hearing you, and I understand the opportunity.
Yes.
Right? However, and it's something that I'm going to turn to Charles about, what has been the effect? We are seeing the opportunity, but we have to start seeing measurable outputs. We have to start seeing the opportunity for the motivation. Charles, to your point, Tom, what are the opportunities that your organization has played out?
Well, we are at the end of it, right? So we are the end of what I term as PRID, P-R-I-D. And what I have observed is that countries that are globally competitive, they have alignment discipline. And so what I mean by that, we must have alignment between the P, the policy side, R, regulation, I, investment, and D, delivery. Now, where I go sometimes, we delivering and executing stuff, but sometimes in the middle, things get a little blurry. And so sometimes at iGovT we deliver amazing stuff. You would have heard the chairman share on Employ TT, a solution that persons can apply for jobs. And we have AI embedded in there to filter the listing for the persons on the receiving end, the ministries, the appointment, where you can make appointments. The digital assistant that we have developed in-house and utilize. Now, countries that were able to move from connectivity, and Kali rightly said, we have great connectivity, but countries that were able to move from connectivity to competitiveness was able to have this alignment of policy, regulation, investment, and delivery move toward digital public infrastructure. And what I mean by digital public infrastructure is really foundational, public, scaling, building blocks that are digital, that are safe, secure, reliable, could be scaled how we want. And so when I look at Trinidad and Tobago, I don't think that our challenge lies in funding by itself, or even in technology. We have technology that is available. The challenge, the gap, the opportunity that I see is the ability to execute at scale. But to be able to execute at scale, we need to have the verticals, the building blocks. And what digital public infrastructure brings are those verticals. As an example, identity, digital identity, digital payments, and a third critical is data exchange. How comfortable, and on the continuum, the arc, to move from being connected, competitive, there are two large entities between. The first part is trust. Do I trust this, whatever the this is? Do I trust that my information is safe? Do I trust that my data is mine? And then the next bucket, so you have moving from being connected to having an environment of trust, and you have to move to capability. in terms of the persons and the infrastructure. Capability, infrastructure-wise, is do I have these verticals in place? And then we could have conversations around being competitive. Competitive, if I took 10 hours to be able to do a transaction with government, is that now down to 5 hours? And then we have KPIs surrounded that, our key performance indicators, and we drive that down. Reducing the number of steps, reducing the time, reducing the cost. And let me draw the example now. If you would have these verticals in place now, picture an digital AI assistant. Wouldn't it be amazing, rather than asking the government for information, that there is a tool there that says, Curly, your driver's permit is going to expire in 2 months. What do you want me to do? But to do that, the solution must know that Curly is Curly. But to know that Curly is Curly, I must have one of these verticals. Right. So I must have the digital identification. So yes, so we have that, fine. And then Curly was like, hey, sure. And Nancy, please do that for me. I say, okay, go ahead and pay. But to pay, I must have a next vertical. And then data exchange of the interoperable, as you mentioned, is systems share information confidently through a shared understanding of the platform that we utilize. The receiver being able to interpret and understand what is being requested. And understanding the standard of the communication, be able to communicate accordingly. So I really think at the end of it, when you dust everything down, for us to be competitive, we must be able to compete at scale. We cannot be taking 3 years to do something that could be done in 3 months. But you cannot do it in 3 months if you don't have the building blocks. You'll be able to do things, and you're able to develop systems, but as what Chairman mentioned, we have to go from system thinking to platform. And so that's what I said, because on the delivery end, at the end of the PRID, the policy, regulation, investment, for us to deliver and deliver fast, we need to have the building blocks in place. So I would say the gap is being able to execute at scale. And one of the things that will help us is having the requisite infrastructure, API.
Thank you for that, Charles. Like, the way I describe it, I mean, I spend a lot of time in Guyana, but I'm Jamaican by birth, and I see it as like a relay exchange, in the words of my countryman, Usain Bolt. And it's the PRID, whereas I see that you carry out the ID, I also look at there are possibly some baton exchanges, challenges that are happening from a P and R situation. And Curtis is where I pass it back to you. You being in private sector, you seeing the challenges that we have had with government, and just how things evolve with policy, and us having to be responsive. Let me say problems. I have to be careful of the audience that I do with regulatory government affairs. But the upper years and should be there for me and greater symmetry. Do you think that the regulators are moving at the need in terms of being able to respond as an industry? To be able to get to a different standpoint and to be able to provide roadmap for investment.
It's somewhat of a loaded question. Of course, we can move faster.
Yes.
I think as a region, and I want to take my answer beyond just the national perspective. I want to look at it from a regional perspective. You know, we've been having these discussions regionally about a single ICT space for some time.
That is true.
Yeah. I know we are making some progress in that regard, you know, through the efforts of the Caribbean Telecom Union, you know, in partnership with entities like CANTO, and they're making representation at the CARICOM level. So I know we're making some progress towards having what is considered, I think they're sort of termed it right now as a regional regulatory body, an
Right.
RRB.
Right.
So it's in its early sort of formation stages. I would have made some headway at the last CTYC week in Jamaica in September. And yes, we agree. We wish it could be faster. Because of course that discussion has been happening for quite a number of years. So to Charles's point, we'd have loved that to have, we'd have made a lot further progress in that time, or we'd have gotten to where we are now in a lot shorter time. That would have been ideal. But we have to be mindful from a regional perspective that there are different interests and different priorities. I believe that the region is, from a policy perspective, is starting to align and they're starting to appreciate the benefit of a regional approach to tackling some of these challenges which we will all inevitably face. I see promising signs through the recent CTU, Caribbean Telecommunications Union Artificial Intelligence Task Force. So last year, that task force was formed, and they were able to put together a draft, regional position paper or framework for AI for the Caribbean region. It would have modeled somewhat in terms of some work that has been done by your home country, Jamaica. So Jamaica, they sprinted ahead and did something. And now we're taking that work and have developed a sort of a regional Caribbean AI task force position paper. So I'm seeing the promising signs that that regional approach to tackling big problems is happening. So to your question about can we move, can we improve or can we move faster? Yes, we can. But we have to appreciate it's, different governments, different policies, different economic situations, different readinesses, across the region. So you do have to be a little patient, for a family person, if you have, I have 2 kids. And getting them to align is an effort.
That's true.
So you can imagine if you have 9, 10 different children over there, their desires and priorities, But I see that there's a aligning happening across the region. We see the benefit, we appreciate that the scale to be competitive is needed.
Yes.
And those sort of regional discussions are not only happening from an AI level. There's even discussions on, there's a point I'm going to touch on, which is, how do we protect and unlock investment in infrastructure?
Right.
So one of the things that CANTO has been advocating for is some sort of consideration be given by regional governments as it relates to these, over-the-top players, right? And we do see some alignment starting to happen. It wasn't always there. It's happening slowly because, of course, some Caribbean countries may have felt, is this really important, But we do appreciate that, if we don't address it or face it on, then what you may have is that the benefits, the revenue that you invest and support infrastructure need to drive and support the AI future may not be available. So that realization happening, we are seeing the policy formation element come. And as the policy formation element comes together, I think my impression, and of course you as the operators could challenge me,
Yes.
I believe once the policy is formed, the regulators are prepared to implement and execute once that policy is formed.
And that's an excellent segue into the final part of our discussion. We had mentioned infrastructure. And you spoke about the AI task force. We have had the success of the CNI initiative as we are collecting Caribbean operators working with the government. And really coming back to our identity, which is the core of the discussion. We as a region, in terms of operators, collaboration, need to have a greater point in monetizing the products of our people.
It's true.
Truly who we are. And many persons from outside the region will come and extract that value to our benefit, as we have seen through the Fair Share initiative.
Yeah.
and I have to make a plug for them, Curaçao has the only Tier 4 data center within the region. And what we're seeing, at least from a point, is that there is a shift in terms of trade, international trade, not just in goods, but in terms of identity, no longer being from east to west, but we're looking at a flow from north to south. And I was in a keynote the other day, and I heard the speaker say that there's an opportunity for the region to be able to be a center for infrastructure. No, we have challenges in terms of, and I would say this is a challenge in terms of power and energy that will power the integration, power infrastructure. Where both of these see this as a critical point of investment. Do you see it as a critical point of investment at this point in time to support our digital strategy in terms of infrastructure, data centers, subsea? Where do you see that?
So I see it as very important, but not for us to lose focus of cloud. There's still discussion surrounding where am I comfortable with having my data, right? We need to fast track that discussion and come to a point, because owning your own facilities and so on come at a cost, one. Secondly, sometimes we are challenged with maintenance of things.
Right.
We could do things well, but maintaining is a challenge.
Right.
I am always one who subscribes to, unless absolutely required, stick to your core business, right? So if your core business is producing shoes, stick to producing shoes, unless you absolutely have to create this house, right? Now, that is one part of this infrastructure, hard infrastructure, which is on telecom side and so on. But the next infrastructure that I strongly recommend us investing in is what I would have discussed earlier, which is in the DPI field. Because if it is, as a region, we ascribe to certain standards. This is security standard. This is data sharing standard. These are the specifications that I'm going to consider for solutions. We don't all have to do it at the same time, but once we agree on a standard and each country begins building their own stuff, and the verticals begin to ascend across each country, then we could now have digital public infrastructure across the Caribbean region. So like MT is being used by persons outside of Trinidad as well, in terms of countries, right? So there's amazing. That's great news. But what we can do now, consider certificates, CSME, and so on. Can we not, as a region, in terms of moving to the ICT space that Curly mentioned, and that has been the dream of the region for a while, we can't do that, but we have to begin with standards. We can't eat the pizza in one bite, but we could at least begin by agreeing on standards. And each country doesn't have to move forward at the same speed. That is not practical. Once we agree on the standards and we develop things in our ecosystem according to the standards, then we can connect later on.
Thanks.
So that is my thinking.
Thanks, Charles.
Sure.
And Curly, to your point, and I'm going to ask for you just to give me, when you're finished with your point, give me a 1-minute parting shot before I give Charles a final word.
A parting shot, yes. So, the question, I'm just trying to paraphrase the question in terms of, is there a need for investment in infrastructure? To be globally competitive. I believe I want to be careful on that particular question, because market demand should drive investment in infrastructure. Right? I want to stress that. I'm very cautious about saying, hey, we need bells and whistles, and we need to go to 6G, and we need 20 subsea cables. If there's no demand to support that level of investment. However, there is some. I wanna endorse something that Charles mentioned there about standards. Because if we want to attract investment into, businesses, digital businesses in the region, the digital infrastructure, the networks that sit in the region need to have a certain level of security, minimum level of security, right? And I'm making a little plug for a presentation one of my colleagues will do later on our recently published cybersecurity framework for Trinidad and Tobago here. You can't expect to attract businesses to come into your country and provide services if the communication infrastructure is insecure or can be easily compromised. Or if there's a cyber attack, there's no plan to resolve, to mitigate, to restore service, right? There is some level of security and resilience that communication infrastructure needs to possess, needs to offer, if we are to become competitive. So I would say those type of investments are necessary so that we can offer the globe a secure digital communication infrastructure that can support our people, conducting transactions, digital payments, and so on. And secondly, I think that attract businesses where someone can operate a business here in Guyana, in Grenada, in Trinidad and Tobago, and offer globally competitive services. Right? So I do want to say that minimum level of investment is absolutely needed. But in terms of whether or not we need 60 equity centers in the Caribbean, I don't know. I think the market really should. If there's a market for it, if there's a business for it, by all means, make the investment. And we as the regulators are happy to support and facilitate where we can. If we need to provide a sandbox, or we need to lobby for some waivers or some incentives, some fiscal incentives, we are happy to partner with you where there's a market demand. Right? I'm not a big fan about just investment.
Everybody has a data center.
Yes.
You
correct.
get a data center, you get a data center.
Correct.
Right?
And you get more subsea fiber cables. Because those things are intensive, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. Thanks for that, Curly.
And then you asked me about my my 1 minute.
Yes, 1 minute parting shot before we get to Charles.
I guess my 1 minute parting shot would be, we as regulatory agency in Trinidad and Tobago are all about innovation, right? So we are here to promote, to stimulate, to encourage, to facilitate, to enable, to foster innovation, new services, experimentation. So operators that wish to, and it doesn't have to be telecom operators, it could be any business entity that wish to become present in our country, in our region. We are open to discussions. We are willing to facilitate, and we are here to help. We are really about, we know that we can't just follow what others do if we want to be globally competitive. We have to be here to innovate, to flex, to be flexible, in order to support our region, our country, and our region, really making the necessary quick steps to become a globally competitive entity in this space.
Thank you, Curly.
All right.
And Charles, anything for your end?
Yes.
Execution.
Of course. I want to harp on something that our chairman would have alluded to earlier. Mark, Curly, Charles, all of us here, from the policy side, the regulation side, the investment side, the delivery side, always remember our role is to improve the lives of the citizens of our region. So I think once we remain aligned and understand that our purpose is not to be in silos, because according to the UNDP readiness assessment, part of the challenge is being in silos and not having coordination across. So I just want to encourage all of us to remember that at the end of the day, our role in the PRID is to improve the lives of the citizens of the region. And I think once we have that in focus, alignment will flow a bit smoother. And we look forward at IGovTT to continue to serve the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago and, by extension, the region. Thanks very much.
Thanks for that, Charles. And final word, I think that, thank you all for your attendance. What we have seen here today is pretty much, I think, regardless of the challenges that we have had, there are two main issues, trust and capacity. And I think once we address those, and more so to tap into the need for development of human capital, as I said, I go back to what your chairman had said, Charles, about service to the citizens.
Correct.
I think that should be the focus for the public sector and the private sector. They are the common denominator. Yes, it's scarce. Yes, we're competing, everyone is competing for a pie, but I believe that there's an opportunity for everyone to be able to share that pie effectively. But I think there's also a call for this strategy. The real definition of competition is be able to deliver what the customer wants. That is going to make us digitally effective. And to the point of cybersecurity, it's probably going to be a point that we have to focus on those things to develop trust, developing situations for the Caribbean where there are cybersecurity solutions that enable investors to trust the product, the market that they're investing into, who they're coming to deal with. And I think ultimately this sets the stage for what we're going to do in Punta Cana to speak to direct issues about not just talking about it from a policy and regulatory perspective, but seeing what is our vision for the Caribbean in the future going through to 2030. Thank you everyone for your time.
That was fantastic, man. Well done. I want to thank everyone there on the panel for that very impactful discussion. Of course, Mark took us through it in true CANTO style, very professional. And of course, I love the fact that to the end, we heard the call that all that we do ultimately is to improve the lives of our citizens. After all, we established yesterday in our opening, we are in the business of people. What I want to do as we get ready for the next panel is give you a quick piece of information here. We want you, once you get a moment, so we have the Wi-Fi, so everybody connected. We want you to download the CANTO 2026 app. If you already got it, well done. If not, check out the CANTO 2026 app. Just type in CANTO 2026, and you're going to get a chance to get all the different details concerning our agenda, session updates, announcements, and everything happening through the conference from now till tomorrow. And there's a special way, an option there for you to spot your photo. Now, you notice camera crew, the multimedia team, they're moving through. So when they put the camera on you, make sure and smile. Yeah, nobody here without standing warrants, I'm sure of that. I am sure of that. So once the camera's on you, smile, and you could actually get that particular picture. Now, here the technology and the science in this. Once you go into the app there, you could actually upload a selfie, and the AI will do its magic, and it will actually bring all the pictures that you're featured in, just the ones that you are featured in. And you're going to see, of course, your digital footprint for CANTO Connect 2026. So that's a good look. And definitely download the app and go through the details to spot your photo. We move on now to the next panel discussion, a very important one. It's called Digital Sovereignty in the Caribbean, Why Nations Must Control, Secure, and Shape Their Digital Futures. The moderator taking us through this panel discussion is Lee Singh, Director of Market Development, Blue Nap Americas, and joining him will be the Vice President of Sales and Marketing from Cloud Carib Limited. We have with us the VP Commercial Officer at B2B Liberty Caribbean and the COO of Airlink. You'll get all the names and bios next as we get ready for panel discussion number 2. Let's give a warm welcome to our moderator, Lee Singh. Lee, the floor is yours.
Hi, good morning. And Lee is a female, sorry. Lee is a female. Not the gentleman, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I try my best and look pretty today and then.
I'm gonna move from here because she stole me anything.
So I guess my guy took a cue from me. That was the cue, by the way. Gentlemen, are we ready to go?
Yeah?
Yes. Great. So today the stakes are quite high, higher than ever in all honesty. Data has become the new oil. And for Caribbean small island developing states, the risk of digital colonialism is a pressing concern. For decades, even more, we fought for sovereignty over our lands and our own seas, but today most of it, if not all, of our borders are digital. Currently, most of our data lives on foreign soil. Transactions are international as opposed to local, and our digital future is being coded by people who've never set foot on our shores. This isn't really a technical issue, it's a survival issue. We call it survival for the fittest. So today I'm going to ask my guys, how do we, the Caribbean, stop being a digital tenant and start becoming a digital landlord? Let's meet our experts who are carving this path to greatness. As we move further into 2026, AI-driven cyber attacks and deepfakes are escalating. Can a nation truly be secure if its defensive software and cybersecurity protocols are black boxes owned by foreign entities? And this question I'll pass to Liberty Networks.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Honored to be here. So the question is about cybersecurity. And the question is, can we truly be secure if some of those solutions are residing potentially in a black box? And if you allow me, I'm going to try to answer that in two approaches. I'm going to answer the question about, can we at the Caribbean, or actually any institution, be truly secure? And I think the answer is no. Security is not a point where you get to and you relax. Security is a
journey. We need to constantly be improving our tools, our processes, because the other side,
they are constantly trying to improve themselves. So the answer is not, are we in a good state that we can be relaxed? And the answer should always be no. There is a quote that they say they attribute to Benjamin Franklin, that they say there's only two things in life that you know for sure. You're gonna die and you're gonna pay tax. In this world, there's a third one. You're gonna be
get that. The question is how ready you are if that happens. Now the second portion of the question is, can we trust the black box?
And I'm going to give a business answer, probably a more practical answer than probably a broader one. But there is no other way. There is no other way. Not a single entity or a single country in the world can design their own security platforms. We need to rely on partners. We need to rely on companies that are specialized in security. I think the question really should be not can we rely on them, but how do we put the right governance behind that? How do we ensure the company that is partnering with us for the security
follows the protocols that are standard globally. And those protocols will guarantee transparency.
now that we've covered the security aspect of it, and we know that we can't be 100% safe, and it never will be, Jareem, how we often hear about the term digital sovereignty, and in the context of the European states or China, for a Caribbean nation, what does it actually mean to lose sovereignty in the digital age?
Well, thanks for the question, Lee. But to lose digital sovereignty, digital sovereignty, it really means that you're preventing your advancement in innovation, right? So the data that you generate and and all of your digital properties, if you don't have full control over them, right, then we'll be forever tenants in the region, right? So it'll slow down our innovation and also prevent us from becoming competitive at a global scale. We have the talent in the region. There's a lot of good engineers and a lot of technical folks that are very innovative. However, without a good understanding of the tools that are being used to ensure that the data that's generated and intellectual property that's being manufactured here in the region stays within the region. And again, it's the governance around it and the cybersecurity aspect, as colleague Daniel mentioned.
Okay. Riyadh, do you want to add something to Jareem's conversation?
Yeah, so additionally, you need that infrastructure, and you need that infrastructure here, regionally. But it's not just about the infrastructure. It's hit the nail on the head in one sense, is that the people here needs to be a part of it, and it's a much more than just the infrastructure and people. It's the drive that we need to have locally and in CARICOM to make it happen.
So, which brings me to my actual conversation with you. Our best engineers often look for foreign tech giants off islands. How can a committed or a commitment to digital sovereignty create digital homes that keeps our brightest minds working for the region or on island?
Yeah, so we've created this problem as a region, not just in the tech industry, but almost in every industry, where we are typically brain drained on some levels. And when I say we created the issue in tech, because of competition, we would have outsourced. We go to the easier thing. It's easier for a company to go to big tech and say, hey, I want this solution, or it's easy for me to take something off the shelf and use that. And what does that do for our people? Our people see that companies are valuing big tech over here, because what we do is we will train our people to maintain infrastructure, but not actually challenge our people to build infrastructure. And our people see that as that's where the value is, and not necessarily value in a salary or money, but the value of being a part of something bigger, building something, the challenges, doing the hard work. That is something we need to, I should say, recreate. And it's a great opportunity for us to do it with data sovereignty. We need to build the infrastructure, and it means we need four things really, in my opinion: infrastructure, connectivity, the data protection legislation, and our people. Most important. That's the value right there. We can see ourselves holding on. We can see ourselves innovating as a people.
Okay. So under acts like the US Cloud Act, data stored on foreign servers can be accessed by foreign governments. How can the Caribbean nations, or us, create and ensure that our citizens' data remain on land, under the jurisdictions of the Caribbean law. And this question I'd like to pose to all of my panelists.
You're talking to her?
So we'll start with
Okay.
So again, the question of data sovereignty. I think that the first thing to understand with the Cloud Act is create a very separate view on data residency versus sovereignty. And the Cloud Act talks that if a data, even though it's residing outside of, let's say, the US, but if it is on a US-based company, the US can have access to the data. So it means that just having data centers not necessarily drives sovereignty to the industry or to the government. So the question, it goes back to how do you want to manage your information? And there is a process that for us in Liberty, we
believe is critical. That is one step before you decide what you want to do with your data. And it's related to data classification. Some of the data needs to be protected. Government data, some regular, let's say, like industries that are regulated.
Finance, and potentially those, you need to have the full control, ownership, and the sovereignty of the data. On the other side, there are other types of data that not necessarily you need to have those types of concerns. And as many things in life, there is a trade-off. What is the trade-off? If you want to have sovereignty because it's important, you will have to own your
infrastructure. And we can help with that. And the answer for that is to have a hybrid solution. Some of your data will reside on your assets that you manage, and we can help with the managed process. But you lose the scale. You lose the access to some of the applications that are developed by some of the large organizations.
So this is the trade-off. The data that you don't need to have the full control and sovereignty might make sense to, even if you store locally, you get the residency of the data, but you get access to tools and processes. In this world of AI, of digitalization, we are firm believers that there is no success without partnership. And one piece is very important for the success of those investments, which is scale. And we cannot forget that some of the investments that those large companies are making are huge. And it's almost impossible for any nation to actually catch up
with the investments that they're doing. Before coming to this as a preparation, I did a quick analysis. I looked at what is the GDP of the whole Caribbean. Then I looked at the top 5 IT companies globally. They are investing in the AI, in platforms,
and technology more than our full GDP. So we should not take advantage of those solutions. The critical piece starts with step 1, is to understand what portion of your data you need to have sovereignty, and what of the data, which is the trade-off, you can actually maximize with the tools that are being developed by other governments.
Thank you. I will echo what Daniel said. So again, every organization in the region should have a good understanding what their local data protection laws look like, right? And again, a lot of it boils down to the data classification, who's responsible for the different subsets of data based on their classification, chain of custody, etc., right? The common thing that I observed with a lot of the data protection laws in the region is effectively having control, right? So data residency, whatever the case may or may not be relevant. However, if your data is subject to foreign laws or contractual clauses that allow organizations or any foreign jurisdictions to have access to your data without consent, you're effectively giving up control. So again, good understanding of the law is first thing. And sometimes it'll take an organization some time to develop that expertise. But luckily, there's a lot of firms that are offering services around data privacy and data protection. There's a data protection officer as a service, basically, who guide an organization with the whole data classification and the responsibilities of the different, groups or individuals responsible for handling the data. So that would be my first and most important comment. And again, to accomplish that, excuse me, again, we need to work with partners. You mentioned partnerships many times. Again, our approach is also to work with partners, within the region and even from outside the region, right, to deliver some of these services.
Okay, Riyadh?
So it's a straight line from here. It's easy to say. The question is how do we ensure that the data that is here for our customers or our citizens is not accessed by the U.S. after it comes out. The data is here. How do we ensure that it's regulated here or it's stored here, not by a US-based company? Because US-based company is going to have that. They're bounded by the act. So that's one way to look at it, not having it bounded by the act. The other thing is we can't just say it's because it's here, it's not going to be requested, it's not going to be in a court of law. Right? How do we protect that? And I think we have to look at it as a region and not as individual countries. As a region, if we can work together to develop data protection laws, our legislation, we can act together, not to be abrasive to the US Cloud Act, but to actually work with them. Having a unique voice makes it easier for us to say, here's our lines, here's where we'll work with you on, and we'll develop accordingly that legislation to protect the data. And there are things as well that we should have to put in place that really, pushes the line a bit further. And one of the things I said is that is the infrastructure, yes, but connectivity. If we have localized connectivity, then the data doesn't really have to go up and back down, right? And have that legislation to protect it. But I don't think we should be saying, let's be worried about the U.S. Cloud Act and let's, keep a distance from it. I think we need to be strategic about it, and we need to understand that as a Caribbean or CARICOM, we have the power together to work with rather than push the line.
So it seems that everybody on this panel agrees that we need to work together, which I also strongly support. But Riyadh, what do you think is the single biggest barrier that's preventing us from achieving this data sovereignty by 2030, let's say?
The company, competition, because I don't think people is the problem. In the sense of we have very smart and bright people here. I think it's a matter of understanding the strength that we possess. And I mean, CANTO is just living proof of that, right? We're here to develop the Caribbean, right? And you've done a lot of work of putting things together, getting people together. I think it's us the companies seeing that, yes, while we compete against each other, there's also space to work with each other to become strong.
Okay. Danielle, what do you think is keeping us back?
I would go back to the first step. It's really understanding what type of data it's required to have sovereignty and what type of not. But one thing that we need to think as a region, it's almost impossible to try to replicate some of the investments on applications and tools that is being made globally. And it all goes back to scale. How can we, as a region, understand strategically what we need to tap on those opportunities and those applications and those investments being made by large organizations, and what we need to build ourselves. We will not have the scale if we try to do individually as individual countries, and we will not have the scale to replicate everything that is being done globally. So having a strategy behind your data for me is critical. And you asked one, but I'm going to give one. Inga, and I think yesterday also Teresa, Secretary of CANTO, mentioned the importance of people behind on everything that we're doing. We are strong believer that for digital transformation to happen, to have a success on that, it starts with infrastructure and people. Making sure that we're developing our people, attracting the right talent, making sure that we develop ways for people to get ready to understand this, what is required to be successful in those works, and keeping those talents within the region, I think is critical.
Very important. So I would agree with both my colleagues mentioned. So again, sometimes the competition can prevent us from working together. But I don't think it's a zero-sum game. There's always room for.
We've talked about this, outside of this forum, and I think, with respect to data sovereignty, right? Just understanding the controls that you put in place to ensure that you know who's accessing your data, how your data is being used. And I always use this analogy, right? It's like, it's like someone going into your house without knocking on your door first, right? So if someone wants access to your data for whatever reason, they should
at least ask you for your consent. Right? So I believe that once you have all the controls, all the partnerships to deliver, sovereign data or digital.
Right. It'll help facilitate, I guess it'll help bridge the skills gap that you mentioned. So again, investing in people, understanding, what type of skills are required in order to facilitate innovation. Right, and again, to quote Ms. Martin's keynote yesterday, again, digital infrastructure is now economic infrastructure. So I think that's the only way we can do it is through partnerships, understanding the laws, and our responsibility when it comes to handling data.
Oh, great. So we all believe in partnerships. We also believe that our biggest problem is ourselves. Yet, what are we going to do about it? Because we seem to know what the problem is. What are we doing to fix that problem? And I'll start with Daniel.
Again, I think this morning when Inga talked about what we are doing, I think our commitment is with the region. She mentioned, starting from a talent standpoint, 85% of the leadership is from the Caribbean. 50% of these leaders are female. 100% of our countries are managed by local teams. We're committed with the region in terms of investing on the people. So that is the number one that I would say. The other one, what we're doing is, there is no digital transformation without the right infrastructure. We are fully committed on investing, on bringing the right infrastructure, both from a connectivity, data center, and security to make this a success. And as a region, what I think CANTO, CARICOM could challenge us to do more as a region is to choose our battles and understand as our organization, as group of countries, how we're going to prioritize the development of the region by choosing on the first step of the classification what is really important to be solved, and the other one, how we're going to partner with some of the most important players to maximize the digital transformation in the group.
Riyad?
Yeah, so I don't think we're not doing anything, or maybe I shouldn't say that, but I don't think we're not trying to advance. We are. Yes, it's a matter of competition, yes, but it's also a matter of leveraging each other's strengths. Today, we do have relationships, almost every telco in CARICOM, one way or the other. I think it's a matter of exposure, it's a matter of further consultation, and it is definitely a matter of a higher level of working together. And we are finding those commonalities of why we should work together. The U.S. Cloud Act is one of them. So, yes, we are aware of the issue, but I don't think the issue is really stopping us from moving forward. We are moving forward. Maybe we should move faster.
Maybe we can be faster.
Yes.
I mean, an excuse for the Caribbean is we live on Caribbean time. So, ladies and gentlemen, today we've heard from the architects and top architects at Cloud Caribbean, Latin Liberty, or Liberty Caribbean in this case, and Airlink. And we've moved past the why. We've mapped out the how. So we know why, we know how. And we've established that for the Caribbean to thrive at least 2026 and beyond, we need to own the dirt, the cables, and the technology. But the road to data sovereignty doesn't stay on this stage, nor does it end here. We need to work together, partner up, like Danielle said, make things happen. And I think we're on the road to establishing the CARICOM cloud. And beyond. Who knows, maybe we can offer this to the other regions, the American regions, the European regions. Let's put the Caribbean on the cloud. Put it on the map for something other than parties. Having fun, and we're not that far behind in all reality. We have the infrastructure in the Caribbean, in our own lands. We have the fiber, we have the manpower, we have the tech, we have the people, we have it all. We just need to realize we are our own enemies, but we're also our best liability. And look yourselves in the mirror. I think we're on to greatness. The end of our panel, gentlemen. Thank you very much. I hope we brought a message, and thank you.
Lee, I want to thank you as always, and of course to the panel. As we look to, at this point in time, take a very short pause. We're getting ready for our networking coffee break sponsored by TRC. So it's out in the foyer area. So let's take a pause, and I suspect we could come back around 11:15, 11:20 thereabout to get into the next half of this morning session. So we'll take a pause and we come back with more. See you soon.
The Caribbean is more than just a place. It's a spirit, resilient, vibrant, and full of possibility. Rooted in connection, driven by community. It's who we are and the heart of everything we do. For over 150 years, we've been right here, invested in the Caribbean, its people, and its progress. And today, we're going even further. Liberty Business, rooted in the Caribbean, committed to you. Caribbean is more than just a place. It's a spirit, resilient, vibrant, and full of possibility. Rooted in connection, driven by community. It's who we are and the heart of everything we do. For over 150 years, we've been right here, invested in the Caribbean, its people, and its progress. And today, we're going even further. Liberty Business, rooted in the Caribbean, committed to you. The Caribbean is more than just a place. It's a spirit, resilient, vibrant, and full of possibility. Rooted in connection, driven by community. It's who we are and the heart of everything we do. For over 150 years, we've been right here, invested in the Caribbean, its people, and its progress. And today, we're going even further. Liberty Business, rooted in the Caribbean, committed to you. The Caribbean is more than just a place. It's a spirit, resilient, vibrant, and full of possibility. Rooted in connection, driven by community. It's who we are and the heart of everything we do. For over 150 years, we've been right here, invested in the Caribbean, its people, and its progress. And today, we're going even further. Liberty Business, rooted in the Caribbean, committed to you. The Caribbean is more than just a place. It's a spirit, resilient, vibrant, and full of possibility. Rooted in connection, driven by community. It's who we are and the heart of everything we do. For over 150 years, we've been right here, invested in the Caribbean, its people, and its progress. And today, we're going even further. Liberty Business, rooted in the Caribbean, committed to you. The Caribbean is more than just a place. It's a spirit, resilient, vibrant, and full of possibility. Rooted in connection, driven by community. It's who we are and the heart of everything we do. For over 150 years, we've been right here, invested in the Caribbean, its people, and its progress. And today, we're going even further. Liberty Business, rooted in the Caribbean, committed to you. The Caribbean is more than just a place. It's a spirit, resilient, vibrant, and full of possibility. Rooted in connection, driven by community. It's who we are and the heart of everything we do. For over 150 years, we've been right here, invested in the Caribbean, its people, and its progress. And today, we're going even further. Liberty Business, rooted in the Caribbean, committed to you. The Caribbean is more than just a place. It's a spirit, resilient, vibrant, and full of possibility. Rooted in connection, driven by community. It's who we are and the heart of everything we do.